one of the first things you saw, and you pulled me over and said, look at this, and you even did like slow-mo, like, watch this. Now watch it again.
Had to.
Steph Curry hits his record-breaking 3 MSG, and he puts those arms up and just lets out a big old basketball yell. And the first 2 players to get to him are Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. Poole puts up the right hand. High five, young man. And then, all right, exit stage left. And then there's Draymond. High five, visual connect, long embrace. And it was nothing other than this. It was a reminder with the backdrop that we're now using, all that we know, Warriors current, it was a backdrop of what that relationship is. That bond between Steph, Clay, and Dre is wonderful. It's iconic. It's nothing that any Warrior fan would change. But we're starting to see a repetitive thing go on here where that bond is now at a spot where I'm not saying it needs to be broken. It's probably unbreakable. But that bond is so strong that there is collateral damage. If you can't break that bond, if you can't get into the bond with them, if you're not just, oh, golly gee shucks, I'm here to help. If you're anything other than that and you buck a little bit, Kevin Durant, Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, well, now suddenly we've got a problem. And as they get older, that problem only grows because they're going to need more help, more significant help, in theory, every year.
It just depends on how you go about bucking the big 3, to use your word. And Jordan Poole was a little bit more of a boat rocker, it seems, in terms of his self-worth, his self-image, his hubris. Maybe that was more threatening to the big 3, and his lack of willingness to learn and toe the line and play his role. And if he was a little bit frustrated over the fact that he wasn't starting, then that could all play into them not embracing him at the level that they would somebody like Quinn Cook, who knows that he's the 11th man, or Leandro Barbosa, who knows he's a bit player, or Sean Livingston, a veteran who knows his role on the team. And Kuminga becomes an interesting test case because he's entering into what we now know as the Jordan Poole year, a.k.a. money time.
Yep.
Moses Moody as well. It's the 3rd year. And when Jordan Poole went into his 3rd year, he made a significant jump, and the team won the NBA championship. And at the end of that year, the team doesn't have to make a decision on a player like that, but a lot of times they do, because Jordan Poole would have entered into his final year under contract without a future deal. And at the end of that year, then it becomes a qualifying offer situation. So if Jonathan Kuminga this year has a Jordan Poolean leap, if Kuminga averages 15 a night and 8.2 rebounds, and he flashes, and it looks like
that'd be amazing.
Here he is. It's amazing, but it presents a new problem for the Warriors because this young man would have to be paid, not next year, but in future years.
Okay, so let's pull this apart, because I'm now very familiar with the process of radio host watches Warriors, brings up something that looks like it might be drama, then gets accused of, oh, you're just going for drama and clicks. And then months later, we're like, oh, look, it was actually a damn thing. So the Kuminga thing, we're sitting here going, well, Chris Paul is probably wonderful for your arrival. Draymond said on a podcast last week, I haven't really done a great job of leading Jonathan Kuminga. And so some of us start wondering aloud when Kuminga goes to the Chronicle in the middle of the playoffs and he's not liking playing time. And all that's going on. And I think a Warrior fan will be like, this is nothing. Stop making a big deal about nothing. Well, when Draymond says there's not this huge relationship there, a lot of people are like, well, that's fine. And then when Monte Poole comes on with Steiny and Guru and says the lack of a relationship there is a major problem for this organization. There's 2 different kinds of non-relationship. Do they just not bond? Are they not tight? Or is there like a discord there? Now, if you or I had come out within the last 5 days and been like, Jonathan and Draymond hate one another. Okay, here we go.
It's a hot take.
Thanks, Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
Right? That's what would happen. But the more here we go with the evidence building. We did this all last year. Oh, you guys are making something out of nothing. Well, now we get to the end of the year. The assistant general manager is on TV going, locker room's completely fractured, hucking Jordan Poole out of town to get Chris Paul. People are screaming about maturity, and Draymond Green's fighting with Jordan Poole's dad on Twitter. Well, it was a damn thing that, in fact, was bigger than we made it out to be.
Sure.
So this, pardon me, if this scares the hell out of me with regard to where the Warriors season is going next. If you're telling me that Draymond and Jonathan are in a bad spot and they called Chris Paul to fix it. Oh, God. That doesn't feel safe at all.
It feels safe if it works. Oh. And, you know Chris Paul better than I do, having covered him, and people that are close to Chris. And
he's tough on people.
He's tough. He's not exactly your warm and fuzzy sort of veteran presence. It doesn't mean that he can't be for Jonathan Kuminga,
sure,
but his track record has been closer to Draymond Green than it has been Steph Curry in terms of demeanor. Forget the way he plays. He's a Hall of Fame player and one of the greatest point guards in the history of the association. But for this topic of getting Jonathan Kuminga on board with what you're doing, this is a big deal to me because Kuminga's making $6 million this year. It's a team option, and it's 7.6 next year. If Jonathan Kuminga has a year this year, similar to what Jordan Poole did last year, which is very productive, but up and down and colored by discontent and not feeling like he's a part of the team, what happens at the end of the year? Do they give him a long-term deal and trade him like Jordan Poole? Do they trade him before that comes to pass like James Wiseman? Whatever happens, if you look at the recent history of Warriors draft picks right now, their top pick, James Wiseman, didn't work out, and he got dealt. And Jonathan Kuminga, number 7 overall, is kind of not on the precipice, but this is a very big year.
Yep.
Jordan Poole, end of the first round, great player. He had to go. Moses Moody, a lower pick. We still don't know. But if you have all these picks and none of them can work out because the big 3 is exclusionary or the organization is not good at playing young players, they can't develop, whatever that reason is, that's a bad thing. That's a problem. JD voice.
I mean, the Hoops fan in me
that's a problem.
Thank you.
Super excited to see what Kuminga can do this year. However, what I'm starting to see and hear and feel based on all this that we're getting is that he's not starting at the starting line. He's starting way back there. He's starting way behind because of relationships, because of all of the extraneous things that have taken place with the Warriors here over the last year and a half. North Bay Jay is in Napa here with Willard and Dibs. Hey, Jay, what are you doing? Thanks for calling, man.
Hey, guys. I appreciate your time and love your analysis. Love the conversation. You guys are great. I just wanted to see what your take was. In my opinion, I feel the big 3 chemistry can be intimidating to some people that haven't been established or are still trying to find their way, and so they just try to fit in where they can get in rather than kind of develop a little bit more organically. And, I just want to see your points there. And, Dibs, I appreciate you bringing up Golden Gate Field. I used to go there on dollar days with my family all the time, too. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
North Bay
Jay.
Jay. That one, I'm having a hard time facing it. Golden Gate Fields, the reports are that they will close at the end of the year, and that'll do it. That'll do it for Northern California horse racing. And you can think what you want about horse racing, but I was raised on it, so this one hits me a little harder, Mark.
Well, it doesn't hit me that way for the horse racing because I do have my thoughts on it, but I more as a business, more as a place where you and many have memories. I mean, look, this is quick point on this. This is a thing that we're experiencing all too much in the last 4 years, which is fill in blank is closing.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's really hard. However, let me say something real quick because I'm on the way in this morning. I did hear some of Steiny and Guru, and they're sitting there talking about clubs, and they're talking about millennials and Shohei Ohtani and what San Francisco has to offer this guy. And I'm listening to everything they're saying, and it's a super interesting conversation. And they're bringing up all these places, some of which I know, some of which I don't know. But I'm also thinking to myself, there's something that needs to be entered into this conversation. We can all talk about that and have feelings about that. It is, in my opinion, overwhelmingly irrelevant when it comes to Shohei Ohtani. Let me tell you something that he is not going to bring up in his meeting with the Giants.
Anchor steam?
Where are the clubs? He not doing that. I don't know Shohei, but I know this. It's baseball, food, sleep, repeat.
Yeah.
So this whole what does San Francisco have to offer, I think move that away for this one. What do the Giants have to offer? Because that's all he's going to care about.
And we talked to Tom Verducci earlier in the week, and he was mentioning that Shohei was familiar with the Giants' training facilities in Arizona, and he was, I don't know, blown away, but he was impressed.
Everybody was, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
impressed by their facility there, and that, I think, is more of a factor than, what does San Francisco have to offer Shohei Ohtani. But you never know how that would affect his, girlfriend or family or loved ones.
Totally.
It's not the factor. It's probably not even a factor, but down the list somewhere, it's in there. But you mentioned the closures, and you can't help but think about all the different things. It feels like there's more things closing than there are opening in this city.
If he signs with the Dodgers, it ain't because he's like, man, those Hollywood clubs.
Right.
No.
No.
It'd be like, I'd like to hit behind Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
That's why he would sign with the Dodgers.
Thread count of the sheets.
Yeah. Or Mookie, or Will Smith. Anyway, we got another Jay. Jay in Oakland. Hey, Jay, what are you doing?
Usual, headed home after a shift.
Good for you, man. That's an early exit. Probably a little bit ahead of traffic. Good for you.
Yeah. But so I just wanted to say, I hope the Warriors learn from their mistake and don't give Kuminga the bag based off offensive production alone, and look at the complete package, his IQ, and how he has grown outside of just offense. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the same situation where he is going to feel like he deserves more than what the team needs because he got a bag.
Jay, can I say I totally get your point, but I actually disagree that the Warriors made a mistake. And before I tell you why, let me ask you, why do you think giving Jordan Poole the money was a mistake?
Because, like I said before, the defense is missing. And, I think regardless of what your offensive production is, unless you're a talent like a Curry or a Kevin Durant, you need to have defense. And I don't think players should be getting paid that much without having a more complete game.
So here's what I would say on that. Jay, thanks. And Dibs, wonder what you think. And we've talked about it a little bit. Let's pretend he didn't get the bag and everything else was the same.
Okay.
How's this offseason go?
Well, they try to trade him. Well, if they didn't give him the bag, some other team would offer him something, and the Warriors would have to match and keep or allow him to sign elsewhere. Right. And I believe in return they would get nothing.
Right.
So, and they actually didn't give him the bag. They gave him a bag that was a year away. It was kind of like when you have a trust set up for your kid and you say, you know what? When you turn 25, you're going to get $17 million. You're just 24 right now, though. In a year, you're going to get that bag.
Cash me out one time.
Big time. And I did not win Powerball last night. Somebody in Los Angeles did.
$1.08 billion.
It's good money if you can win it.
Gosh.
Thus, your boy's back at work today, and I'm not going to rat-a-tat anybody other than Mark Grandy.
You know how pathetic I am? I forgot to even go get a ticket.
That's so sad.
I woke up this morning and I went, oh, someone won. And I'm like, and I know it's not me.
Right.
I forgot to go get a ticket.
I'm even more pathetic because I actually went and got tickets.
You did?
That's even more pathetic.
How many?
Just 5.
Okay.
5.
Not 6.
Just 5, Mark.
And you didn't get any of the $500,000 ones either?
Number 5.
No, and I have the app on my phone, and then you scan it, and you're just hoping for the, hey, you want $2. You have the mega number. And the message is the same every time. Sorry, you're not a winner. Sorry.
Is that really what it says?
Or it says this ticket is not a winner.
I was going to say, what an awful thing for an app to say to you.
Thanks.
Sorry, you're a loser.
Sorry, loser. You're not a winner.
You are not the father.
And you're even a bigger loser thinking that today you wouldn't be the loser that we both know that you really are.
Oh, my gosh. $1.08 billion.
But they, just to digest and get back to the topic, they didn't give him the bag. And by giving him the bag in advance, they were able to trade him for Chris Paul.
But they did guarantee him the bag.
Correct.
They guaranteed him the bag. I think there was a Warrior letterhead on the contract. However, that's movable.
And I think Jonathan Kuminga, so when Jay says don't repeat that mistake, I actually think that they can repeat that same sequence of events. Kuminga balls out. Kuminga gets to the end of this year, and it still doesn't feel like, for whatever reason, maybe it's the exclusionary nature of the big three. Maybe Kuminga wants to eat more than they want to feed him. You give him the bag, and then you trade Kuminga.
Yes, or something else.
Right.
There's all kinds of ways this can go. The bottom line is, if he plays great, you give him the bag. Because if he doesn't, and you get to what happened here with Jordan Poole, you're absolutely right. Restricted free agent, yes, somebody would have spent something on him. Now the finances are out of your control, and you have a choice, which is either let him go and get nothing in return, or you match the deal, and now you're stuck to a deal that, by the way, is immediately not tradable for at least 6 months.
Right.
So Jordan Poole, this is odd now, if they had not signed him to the bag, one of two things is true. Either Jordan is on the team, and even if he's not, then Chris Paul is not. Now, some of you may have been like, great, let's do that. But you lose your asset. You lose control of the money. You lose control of the asset. And I think that the Warriors feel, even though it might make us a little bit nauseous, they feel like they're a better team. They're better equipped this year with Chris Paul on the squad.
Oh, there's more adults. We know that. I mean, just ask them.
Are there any?
Steph said they're a lot more mature, and Draymond said, now I get to play with an adult.
Adults.
You know, we got a lot of adults now. So they think that they're better. And if Chris Paul is able to be healthy in April, hard to say that they won't be better in April than they were with Jordan Poole, who was not very good in the playoffs.
Well, and listen, I firmly believe Kuminga is such a huge part of this season. And even though it sounded like Jonathan wasn't sure, I certainly feel like Chris Paul's addition is a good thing for Kuminga. I don't know how it couldn't be. He makes big players who can handle a pick and roll better. That's literally going to be on his tombstone someday. That is what Chris does. DeAndre Ayton, you're better. Blake Griffin, you're better because of me. So how could this not be a great thing for Jonathan Kuminga and his skill set?
I don't see how, unless Chris Paul begins to be Draymondian in terms of how he's going to treat Jonathan Kuminga, because Draymond hasn't built that relationship. And if Chris Paul doesn't build that relationship, maybe Kuminga is going to feel further isolated by the veteran core. That would be the only way, Mark. The basketball stuff will work itself out. But Jonathan Kuminga's his own psyche and his self-confidence has to be rebuilt after the way last year ended, where he was, oh, you're our guy. Wiggins is back. We're going to play you for 8 minutes at a time. By the way, don't muck up. Don't you make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then he made a mistake. You got to go. And then, now you get 6 minutes. Don't muck up. You got to go. You're getting 4 minutes. Don't muck up. And now he's unplayable.
That's pretty much what happened.
And by muck up, you can choose your own consonant.
Yeah, exactly.
I went with the M.
Presented by
thank you, Chris.
Fremont Bank, full service banking, no compromises.